This is our second cooking video. This time I'm doing pork roast, shoulder blade roast, which is, these ones, particular ones are boneless. This is 2 roasts, even though it looks like 1, and I had them in the freezer. So they're gonna thaw out more overnight. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice into them, wiggle back and forth, and I'm gonna put little slices of garlic in there. And this is just going to infuse it with flavor all the way through. I'm going to try and get as much as I can on all sides. And again, similar as I did with the chicken, because I want to get a bark on it. I want the outside to be very dry when it hits the barbecue. And so I'm gonna salt them again, just like I did before on the chicken. Dry salt brine. Like I explained before, it's going to actually, salt very much absorbs moisture. And so it's going to dry out the surface of these roasts. And when, like I said, when it gets on the barbecue, it's going to have very good bark to it, and that's what we always want, is a very good bark on the barbecue. Just that little crunchy, nice texture. And I'm figuring it's probably going to be about a 6-hour to 7-hour cook, and then after that, I'm going to do the towel cooler rest. I like to call it the TCR. And it's going to rest for a couple of hours. Okay, as you can see, it's the next morning. I have my pork roast out now. Going to give it a liberal coating. All sides. These will be going on the barbecue once it gets up to temperature. I'm going to be cooking these about 270 degrees. I'm thinking probably for about 6 hours. And then at that time, if they are done, I'll be pulling them off, wrapping them in a towel, putting them in the cooler, and it's going to rest probably for about 2 hours. And that should make it just about ready for supper time. I have the Kamado Joe fired up here. Temperature is just starting to climb. I'm around 200 degrees right now. Getting a nice little fire burning in there. I'm going to let that come up to about 350 degrees to get the dome nice and hot, so I can't hold my hand on it. And that way, while it's cooking, the radiant heat from the dome will also cook the top of the roast. But I will be closing down the top control to drop it back down to 270 degrees. Okay, I'm now up to temperature. I can't really keep my hand on that lid, so I know that's a good sign. I have some nice blue smoke coming off there, not white smoke. If you get white smoke going on, then that's the bitter creosote, and you don't want that. You want that nice light blue smoke. Okay, here we are about 5 hours in, and we're hitting about 270 degrees. Looking pretty good, pretty good. I'm just going to give those a little spray of apple cider vinegar. That stops the surface from drying out too much, and also helps the smoke stick to the roast. Okay, so I have my mise en place, cilantro, fresh tomatoes from our garden, green onions from our garden, and red pepper from our garden, and a lime for juicing. I'm going to be making my pico del gallo to go along with the pulled pork on our tacos for supper. Okay, so I'm making my pico de gallo in a strainer because tomatoes are very watery, and then goes the tomatoes, in goes the green onions, in goes the red pepper, some lime juice, some more lime juice, some pepper, and some salt. And just to kick it up a notch, my secret ingredient of a little Tabasco. Not very much, just enough to give it just a little bit of a bite. I'm going to make some guacamole to go along with this. I already cut it in half. You notice I just use my knife to take out the seed. And then what I do is I cut it very carefully in diamonds. And then use my spoon to scoop it out and into the bowl. B likes guacamole, so I'm going to have to use both halves. I cube it this way because it's easier to mash afterwards. Okay, and I'm just going to put a drizzle of, what would you put on avocados? How about some avocado oil? Just a little drizzle. And then mash that up. You don't have to make it purely smooth. A little bit of chunky is just fine. The towel is coming off. I can feel the warmth in there still. And there we go, there's the foil. Oh, I'm just going to take the thermometer. I forgot to mention this earlier when I was taking it off the barbecue. You want to feel when you use something similar to this, that it feels like almost like you're going into a jar of peanut butter, that there's no resistance at all, just like that. And you know what? It's still 147 degrees in there. 3.5 hours wrapped in towel in the cooler. So now I'm going to unwrap one of these puppies. We get a little close up here. That looks just awesome. I'm going to the bowl. In it goes. Okay, I'm now going to pull it. I'm pulling just the one roast to start with. I will ultimately end up pulling both of them and then vacuum freezing them for future feasts. You can see how easily this comes apart. Zoom in. This is going to be so awesome. Just the smell of it is driving me crazy right now. Okay, I'm using these really artesian tortillas, and what I'm doing is I'm on a very hot, dry pan. I'm just getting a nice little toast and get them going. And while that one's cooking, I'll show you over here what I've been doing already. I drape them over the handle. This is just a little tenderizing hammer, and you can see, and then I bring them over and I'm just forming them. They're not really crisp, but they kind of have a shape now. And over here back you can see that. Did you notice that professional chef flip there? In case you missed it, there it is again. Okay, here is our tacos. There's our pulled pork, our pico de gallo, guacamole, and our little taco. As you can see, it's still flexible, but it's just a little stiffer. So I'm going to take a little pico del gallo in there, and I'm going to take some of that delicious pulled pork. Is that looking good or what? And I'm going to put some guac on top of that. This is the stuff that legends are made out of. You know what? I think I'm gonna put a little more pico de gallo on top of that. And I see a stray piece of pork there that just says, I need to be on there. Wrap it up, there is supper.